So this next slide, we talked about renewable versus the so-called clean energy. The Eco-Socialist Green New Deal focuses on 100% renewable energy from solar, wind, geothermal sources, completely moving away from all, gas and fossil fuel infrastructure, completely banning fracking and, halting all new infrastructure so that we can have this very fast transitional period away from it and start decommissioning things as renewable energy comes online. Another positive feature of renewable energy is that it's easily decentralized and can be put under community control. So this is an aspect that folks that, for example, talk about nuclear energy and all tend to kind of, gloss over. That aside from, environmental issues and financial and things like that, those types of energy are highly centralized. And so, they can be centralized under corporate control. And kept out of the hands of people, whereas small towns and communities can put up their own small renewable energy grids. You could put up solar panels in a town or wind turbines or something like that, and you can have them maintained by the local community, so that you can kind of run your own electric grid instead of having to go to corporate control to get your basic resources.
And we're seeing it, in real life right now, and have been for the past decade or two. When there are community electric co-ops popping up all over the country and have been for a long time, and they're all solar or wind, right? Nobody's building no one's building public co-ops that are a nuclear plant, or no nuclear plant's been built in over 50 years, right? And the ones that do try it all go way over budget. And the same goes for coal, right? The investment at the municipal level is already tacking in this direction, right? It's already moving in this direction, and it's already seen a boom in, local community controlled co-ops and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we can have this decentralized 100% renewable energy. So that means, cut carbon emissions and all that through a Green New Deal. Whereas the Democratic plan heavily emphasizes a mixture of energy types that they call clean, but, as Chris pointed out, are not necessarily all clean. They do kind of sleight of hand motions here where they say, well, gas is cleaner than coal. And by some metrics, it is. But then gas and fracking releases more, for example, methane than carbon dioxide. And methane is actually a worse greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So it's not really cleaner in terms of the climate. It's actually worse.
At least when you burn it, that it's cleaner.
Yeah, at least in that one metric. I don't want anyone to misinterpret that I'm claiming one is better than the other or anything. It's all bad, which is why we're trying to move to renewable energy. But just saying that the claims that they try to make to justify this so-called energy mixture are very misleading. So they refuse to ban fracking and various fossil fuel things. And in fact, they're going all in on building petrochemicals. I live not that far from a petrochemical complex that Shell just built a couple of years ago. It just went online a few months ago. It's wrecked our air quality. And it was pushed not just by Republicans, but gladly by the Democratic establishment in this area. They, bipartisan. Oh, they talk up all the jobs and everything, and all. This is a Democratic plan from top to bottom in that party. It's not a fluke or anything. They want to keep developing drilling and pipelines and fossil fuel infrastructure. Biden just approved the giant Willow project in Alaska. After saying in the campaign that he wasn't going to do any more drilling on federal lands. They sold land for drilling. Land for drilling in the Gulf after saying you wouldn't be able to do that.
The Inflation Reduction Act opened up over 600 million acres of public lands to new fossil fuel leases. Right, that's what their climate bill did. And they call it the biggest climate bill in the history, in U.S. history, which. Frankly, it may be, but you don't get a cookie for, beating doing nothing. And even when they did take action, they made sure to sneak those poison pills in because we have to full stop on fossil fuel infrastructure today. Every new piece of fossil fuel infrastructure that we build has decades of a lifespan that they expect it to run, right? And so we have to full stop on everything new, and we have to full stop as fast as we can in transitioning away from what we already have. And that's the exact opposite of what even Democratic Party climate policy says.
Right. And so kind of the last bit here is the other part to watch for when they talk about the clean energy mixture and all this stuff, is that aside from the fact that they're still building fossil fuel infrastructure, you might ask, well, how is that compatible with keeping emissions lower and all that they also claim that they're doing? And it's again this very fast and loose thing where they build into their projections and their calculations that, well, around 2050 or so, we will kind of sort of have net zero or whatever. If you factor in all these technologies don't actually even exist right now. They have this huge Hail Mary where they are building into their numbers stuff that doesn't exist and that they kind of hope will exist at some point because they're being pressured by the fossil fuel industry to say, oh yeah, don't worry, we're working on it. And that's what's going on. So you might hear about carbon capture, for example, carbon capture systems, CCS. And this is a big thing that fossil fuels are pushing, where they can theoretically, hypothetically, pull carbon out of the air and store it somewhere. And that's what they build into these plans of, well, we can keep emitting carbon by fracking and burning fossil fuels and all because we're going to capture it later. So it evens out. It's net zero. And when
it comes to that too, like carbon capture could be a technology that's important in the fight against climate change, but we absolutely cannot use it to pull new emissions that we're sending up into the atmosphere, right? Carbon capture has to be used along with things like afforestation and reforestation and regenerative agriculture to suck existing carbon dioxide out of the air and sequester it in the ground as we have naturally for billions of years on Earth, right? But they want to use it so that they can keep pumping. And like we said when we were talking about timelines, every bit of carbon dioxide we pump in today exponentially increases the problem over time. It bakes more things in. So even if we do have some, this Hail Mary like carbon capture, they're using it in a way to enable the bad actors to continue acting badly instead of using it as a way to actually try to pull back the damage that we're already done.
Right. So these technologies so far have not proven to be very successful at removing a lot of carbon. And as Chris is saying, they could work, especially in the future with more research and development, but we don't really know. And even at the point where it works fairly successfully, we need to be using that sort of thing to pull carbon out permanently to lower our emissions and to try to keep warming lower. But instead, what they're saying is, well, we think this will work later, so we can burn more stuff now. And that is a terrible gamble. But they're gambling with us and the planet and thinking that their money will insulate them, I guess. To be honest, I don't.
Whoever's winning when the world ends wins capitalism.
So that's pretty much where we're at. You have to be very suspicious of the Democratic plans that talk about clean energy and carbon capture.